In Sharpeville earlier today, the two factions have been at each other's throat as they fight for the legitimacy of the fractured organization. Our political reporter, Aldrin Sampear, was caught up in the crossfire, and this is how the chaos unfolded earlier on.
We are the same people who called this Sharpeville.
This is not a person.
Sorry. Oh,
No.
Who are you?
Guys,
Who are you? You don't actually have a branch. Don't talk about the branch.
Guys. Wait. No. Guys, listen.
No.
Don't.
You are nothing. Or kill me. Hey, we are not gonna kill you. We are not gonna kill you.
Guys, don't.
Hey, bloody agent, out. Get out. Get out. Wait a minute. Get out.
No, Baba, don't do that. Don't. No. Hey, man. Yekela le camera yako le. Hey, man, camera yako le.
Stop
taking the video. Camera yako le.
Guys, you don't put us on air. We are asking.
What you can do, I'm giving you an opportunity right now. Okay, well, right now we have Brian, who is from the PAC. As we indicated earlier on, that there are factions within the PAC, and quite clearly he's with the faction that's not with Mr. Maiba, who I was interviewing earlier on. As you saw earlier, and they just came and they grabbed the camera. Well, Brian joins me now. Brian, just basically tell us, why did you guys decide to interrupt that interview?
Thanks you, my brother. You know, first of all, people will say to PAC is divided. PAC is not divided. Why I'm saying this? PAC is having only one representative in the South African Parliament, of which it's Lutando Mbinda. So sometimes we wonder if the SABC is helping the faction of Letlapa to take their things forward. One, why do we say that? As we came here from Johannesburg, you speak to me. You have been making appointments with me. Even when you arrive here, you call me. I said to you, in 5 minutes I will be there. Exactly in 5 minutes I'm here. Only to find that there is another people from Letlapa side, of which Letlapa people, they've been expelled from the PAC. So I wonder, why do you interview them?
Now, our political reporter, Aldrin Sampear, now joining me in the studio. That was quite an episode there, wasn't it?
Yeah, quite an episode.
But first of all, why were you in Sharpeville and who had invited you there?
Well, we received an email yesterday afternoon from the PAC saying that they'll be having an event. They'll be cleaning up the tombstones and preparing for the commemoration of the 1960 massacre, which will be taking place tomorrow. So we decided as a political team that we will go and cover the event, considering the significance of the 1960 massacre, considering that 69 people were killed. We received the contact person on the statement was Kenneth, then his phone was off, and then I got a hold of Brian, who he said that I spoke to earlier on. Brian's phone then went off, and I got a hold of another PAC member, and that PAC member happened to be Maiba, the Secretary General of the PAC, led by Letlapa. So we went to Sharpeville. We continued with the interview as scheduled, and we spoke to some of the victims and some of the survivors of the 1960 massacre. And it was during the interview with Mr. Maiba where Brian then came on and he grabbed the camera and interrupted that interview.
Now, you had Brian from one faction. Is that, am I correct?
Yes.
Is it, were they representing different factions of the PAC?
They're representing different factions of the PAC. You have one faction which is led by Letlapa Mphahlele, who was expelled by the PAC. He wanted to appeal that expulsion, however, it was unsuccessful. But the thing is that last year what happened is that you had Letlapa Mphahlele, who is leading one faction. They had an elective conference, and at that elective conference, he became the president of the PAC. On the other hand, you have Lutando Mabinda, who was also leading a different faction, and this is the faction that Brian is from. They had an elective conference as well in December in Mpumalanga, and of course Lutando Mabinda was there elected as the president of the PAC. So you have two different presidents of the PAC from one party which is clearly divided.
And during the fracas we had now, Brian being taken off the live interview right in front of our hundreds of thousands of viewers. How did he react to that?
I think you're referring to Maiba, who is
Maiba,
yes. The Secretary General. Brian is the guy who came, who had a green hoodie on, who came, shoved the camera and shoved Mr. Maiba as well, the Secretary General. He then ran off into a room there at the office, at the memorial site, ran into a room, and he kept sitting in the room up until, I think for about an hour, 30 minutes, so up until the police came to escort him out, because the members of the other faction led by Brian, who was with Brian at the time, they were standing outside the gates of the memorial site. So he had to call in for backup. He called in the police officers who escorted him out. And of course, now we understand that the case of common assault has been opened against the other faction that is led by Brian, or that is led by Luthando Mabinda.
And talking of Brian, why is he alleging that the media is fanning or encouraging the factions in the PAC?
Well, you see, the divisions within the PAC are so deep that it becomes difficult, even for us as reporters, to know who to speak to and to understand who belongs to which party. Because as a member of the PAC, if I come up to you and I say, are you a member of the PAC? Yes, I'm a member of the PAC. Let's have an interview and let's discuss on current topical political issues. And drawing as far as trying to find out which faction you represent, I think that it just becomes a bit of a stretch. Even the IEC, which runs the elections, finds it difficult to find a solution within the PAC. And now we understand that the PAC runs the risk of not participating in the municipal elections, because the IEC said that it can't recognize them right now, it can't register them right now, because it doesn't know which faction to speak to. And as I said earlier on in that report as well, now the IEC said as well that it will be looking to the courts, or rather the two factions should be looking to the courts to find a solution and say which party is legitimate or which faction is legitimate.
And from your coverage of the PAC over the years and your observations from today's fracas, do you think the rift within the PAC can ever be fixed?
Oh, it's a really difficult one. It's a really difficult one. The faction led by Litla Pampatlela held a unity conference on the 27th of February, trying to invite the other faction led by Mabinda over to say, let's unify the party. However, though, Luthando Mabinda's faction said, because you guys are an illegitimate faction, we will not recognize this unity conference that you're about to lead. And considering the friction that we saw unfolding on live television, chances are quite slim that we might see that we will see these two parties come back, or these two different factions come back together and unify the party.
And very quickly, just before I let you go, at a personal level, were you ruffled by today's episode?
I was a bit scared, I have to admit. I was a bit scared, I have to admit. Just considering that this interview was running smoothly, and all of a sudden you had these guys coming out of nowhere, and I'd never met Brian before, so I didn't know who these people were.
Yeah.
So I was a bit scared at the time, but you know, as a reporter, the cameras have to continue rolling, and we have to make sure that we cover the story.
All right, thank you so much, and it's nice to see you back and all in one piece. That was my colleague Aldrin Sampear, back from Sharpeville and all in one piece. Nice to chat to you.